So let's bow. Welcome to New York Buddha Dharma. And tonight we're using books to sort of organize the topics. And if you wish, you can read along, and if you don't want to, you can just come. And I think the talks are pretty much standalone, and there'll be different people doing them besides me. Actually, let's see, we have one planned, June 5th. Michael Rogan is going to be giving a talk, but it won't be on this book, actually. And there are probably a couple of other people, at least, who will join in. So the book that we're going through is Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism, which was based on a seminar that Trungpa Rinpoche gave in 1970 and 71 in Boulder, Colorado. And so it's quite old, but he really covered a lot of basics in that seminar. And so we're just going to work our way through it. I think there might be a few chapters that we skip as being less appropriate today than they were back then. Some chapters that have to do with the relationship with the Guru, simply because he was speaking of himself and his own relationship with his students at that time, and of course he's no longer here. But there's some wonderful material in that book, especially many people feel the chapter on Shunyata is just one of the best short presentations of emptiness that you can find. And there's other things too. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the introduction. Now, I think it's as timely now as it was then, although then the circumstances were somewhat different. It was 1970, and Eastern religion was entering the United States full force. And there were a lot of different teachers around. Swami Satchidananda was teaching yoga, and Yogi Bhajan was teaching Kundalini yoga, and Suzuki Roshi was the master of Zen Center, and Charles Berner was doing enlightenment intensives, and what was his name then? Werner Erhard was abroad beginning Est, and just this panoply of spirituality that was sort of offering itself, and people were doing all kinds of things, becoming yogis and macrobiotic. For those of you who remember macrobiotic stuff, where you eat according to the principles of yin and yang, and it was just amazing. So I remember Rinpoche once everyone was so gullible, and he said to an audience once, he said, if I told you to stand on your head 24 hours a day, you'd do it. And he was trying to tell people not to be so gullible. And in particular, he felt that spirituality was being used to bolster egotism, which is antithetical to Buddhism. And he called this, he didn't actually invent this term, but he termed it spiritual materialism. And in fact, he said that as he was leaving Tibet, one of his teachers, Khenpo Gongshar, gave him a book on spiritual materialism and told him, where you're going, you will need this. Well, that's very prescient. And so he started out by teaching everyone about spiritual materialism, which is the attempt to use spirituality for purposes of ego aggrandizement or bolstering ego. Back then, it was very gross. I mean, people were just trying to change themselves over, make themselves over into yogis. I mean, the whole thing, you can still see kind of another example of it today, even in the airports. Still, people, the Hare Krishna people, they're trying to transform themselves by adopting different dress and a different diet, and a different lifestyle, as though by doing so you could achieve spirituality. And what he was saying is that this is not the way. In fact, at one point he gave a seminar entitled, this was later, entitled American Karma. And in that seminar, I've always remembered, he said, looked out at his audience and he said, you're all trying to find a way out. But it's not a matter of finding the way out. It's a matter of finding the way in. Back into the heart of American karma and American society, and working with that. And because that's who we are. That's who we've grown up to be. And if we try to make ourselves over at this stage, or at any stage in adulthood, it's really futile. We're rejecting our pasts, and our pasts are what we have to work with. Yeah, he called it spiritual materialism. We can deceive ourselves into thinking we are developing spirituality when instead we are strengthening our egocentricity through spiritual techniques. And it's interesting, in any really attempt to use spirituality to make oneself happier, calmer, wiser, better looking, who knows what you could get out of it, is all spirituality. Richer, that's a good one, that you're going to use spirituality to make a lot of money. Before he came to the United States, he wrote a document called the Sadhana of Mahamudra, and sometimes we chant that over here. And in the preamble to the Sadhana of Mahamudra, he laments the state of Buddhism in Tibet before he left. That at that time he said there were numerous lamas traveling from one village to the next, selling abhishekas and giving teachings for money, for spiritual gain, for monetary gain, and that this was the corruption. Later he told us he felt that as regrettable as the Chinese invasion and destruction of Tibet and subsequent destruction of Buddhism to a large degree was, that nonetheless it had saved Buddhism from a slow death, and that now he felt that Buddhism would develop and find its root and its foundation in the West, and that Westerners would take it back to the East. Isn't that interesting? That was his prediction. So the Buddhist path is really one of cutting through confusion to uncover the awakened state of mind. Now, the awakened state of mind is not something we can graft on or that we can build up like you build up a muscle. Rather, it's something that already exists within us. So the process of the path is really one of uncovering, of releasing confusion, so that the awakened state of mind can come to the fore, can manifest, can change the way in which we relate to the world. And fundamentally what the awakened state of mind is that clear, open awareness that we have practiced just in that little moment of meditation, of coming back into the present moment. Really the path is one of shifting your loyalty, as Trungpa Rinpoche put it, from neurosis to sanity, from samsara, which is confusion and suffering, to nirvana, which is the absence of that. And what that means in terms of our experience is that we are shifting our loyalties from all those thoughts which go through our minds, thoughts about me and mine, our critical thoughts, our hopeful thoughts, our fearful thoughts, all the thoughts that we have about me, and they're always about the past and the future. That's what thoughts are. And in fact, when they're about the past, they're really about the future, because that's why we think about the past, so that we can have the things that we had that we treasure from the past in the future. so that we can avoid the things that caused us pain in the past in the future. And that's really what all those thoughts are about. We think them continuously as we walk down the street, as we brush our teeth, as we go through all the little moments of our days. And really, when we practice coming back just to this open space of awareness, we're practicing shifting our loyalty from confusion, from egotism, from the stories of ego, to this simple, open awareness in the present moment, which is always devoid of thoughts of I. Thoughts of I evaporate every time we come back into the present. So that's really the practice of meditation, however we do it. Now, and then he says, enlightenment is permanent because we do not produce it. It's already there. It's always been there. It's the fundamental nature, beyond I and other. He says it's like the sun and the clouds. The clouds are our thoughts, the dreams, the stories we tell ourselves about I. And like the clouds, they pass away from time to time and then come back from time to time. But the sun is always back there, shining. And that's the mind of enlightenment, the mind of being awake. I'm going to read you some quotes from time to time. He says, the heart of confusion is that one has a sense of self which seems to be continuous and solid. Actually, it is a transitory, discontinuous event, but it seems otherwise. We struggle to maintain it. We have become so absorbed in our confused view of the world that we consider it real, the only possible world. This struggle to maintain the sense of a solid, continuous self is what we mean when we talk about the action of ego. Ego is just another word for self. So that's really the story of how we're so lost in these dreams that we believe so totally about me and my problems, me and my sorrows, me and my virtues, me and my resentments, all of those things. So our pain inspires us to look more deeply into the matter. And that's how we get to the Dharma, we get to the path. Now, there are a number of approaches to meditation. I mean, some people use meditation to simply cultivate a happier state of mind. This is called the first level of motivation. It's kind of using meditation to calm down, to get some more clarity, maybe to do a better job at work, to not be so anxious that you're distracted, at work. And in the traditional Buddhist texts, they call that achieving a better rebirth. Now, when we're born, not only in the traditional sense, when we die, we're reborn. We could be reborn as a human being, hopefully, or an animal, or a god, or a hell being. But also we're reborn moment to moment. Right now we're very calm in this room. Then you could go out on the street and have some incident take place which makes you furious. And suddenly you could be plunged into the hell realm. Or you could have something happen that makes you really happy. Makes you delightfully happy. And suddenly you experience this moment of bliss and you're having a birth into the hell, into the God realm. And so we can treat meditation in that way, as a way of sort of cultivating momentary rebirth in our lives into better realms. We might sit to achieve a kind of calm in the morning before we go to work, to make ourselves more alert, more present and awake. But ultimately, if you are serious about the spiritual path, you begin to practice meditation in order to achieve the second level of motivation, and perhaps even the third. The third is going a stretch. But the second level is to fundamentally escape suffering. And one does that through the practice of meditation and through study, by beginning to realize that the stories that we've told ourselves about I are in fact lies. Lies. putting it absolutely not too politely, you could say fictions. That would be a little gentler way of putting it, but it's more nasty than that. These stories are just lies, because they are not what's real. What's real is what is arising right now in the present moment. And the stories are always these very partial little selections out about the past and the future. We remember just how that person insulted us. We're so angry at them, but we don't remember everything else that was happening in the room, all the different things that were going on, the quality of the day. We've selected out this one little vignette, to tell ourselves a story about over and over and over again. And in that sense, it's an untruth. It's a fiction. It's like any other fiction. You sit down to write a screenplay, or a short story, and you create a fiction. Now, you use elements from your experience, to create that story. So to some extent, it's true. There really was a person who had a big nose and blue eyes and blonde hair, just like the one you're using in your story. Maybe you're actually describing a person you met. So it has some truth in it, and yet you're creating a fiction. And that's what we do all the time. Now, when one does this, when one lives with one's loyalty to these stories, Rinpoche gave us a metaphor for this. He called it being enslaved to what he called in the Buddhist teachings in Tibet were called the three lords of materialism. That's the way he translated it. In the Tibetan, the literal translation is the three barbarians. The Lalos, they were called. Lalo means barbarian. Lalo is a really kind of fun, interesting word. It might amaze you. At least in three languages that I know, the word for barbarian, meaning a one of us. See, a barbarian is somebody who's, in this case, is not Tibetan, is made to sound like gibberish. So the etymology of the word barbarian comes from the Greek, and the Greeks felt that anyone who didn't speak Greek, which was the holy language, the mother tongue, the language of civilization, was just saying bar, 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 bar. In Chinese, I happen to speak a little Chinese, the word for a non-Chinese, the Chinese always felt, the traditional Han Chinese, that anyone who wasn't Han Chinese was inferior. China was the ultimate culture. And so what's the word for barbarian in Chinese? Yet. Yet is the word for barbarian. So the word for barbarian in Tibetan is Lalo. And it was, again, that same etymology that if you weren't speaking Tibetan, you were just speaking gibberish. Lalo, 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 Lalo. And these are the three barbarians, but Trungpa Rinpoche preferred to call them the three lords of materialism. And then he went on to say what he meant by this. Materialism, you see, is the constant effort to improve oneself, to self-aggrandize, to build oneself up through acquisition of one thing or another, one kind of thing or another. And there are three modalities for this, hence the three lords. This is really all the dreams that we have, that we are thinking in our minds as we walk down the street and miss the store we were looking for, as we miss what somebody else said to us because we were lost in thought. All those dreams are driven by that desire to build oneself up, to acquire, to protect this I. Why? Why are we doing that? Because, in fact, it's dying all the time. As soon as we stop saying I, it's not there. As soon as we stop making a journey, we see someone out there, like Christina, and we say, well, there's Christina, and the implication is, therefore, I am here. So there's kind of a movement from that to this. This is how ego, the sense of I, is constantly being reborn. We see something out there. We pick out of this vast panoply of colors and shapes and sounds and everything. We pick something. We pick a color blue and a shape. And we say, well, if that's there, then this I, the perceiver, is here. And that journey from there to here is fraught. It's fraught with death. Because as we make it, it is dying. It's ending. It's a motion, just like this gesture. It's born and it dies. So the very assertion that of me is fraught with its own death. It's there all the time. And so we're caught in this constant effort to self-aggrandize and self-maintain. Call it self-improvement or improvement of our world as it pertains to me. Me. Even when we're idealistic about it, like we're going to campaign for March for the Environment. It's because we want to have a better environment. We don't want our children, my children, to have to grow up in a bad environment because I am outraged by these selfish people who are degrading the environment. So there's this very personal sense of self-investment. So the three lords are the three styles in which we engage in this kind of self-aggrandizement, self-improvement. And they are the Lord of Form, the Lord of Speech, and the Lord of Mind. The Lord of Form has to do with the manipulation of the material world in order to build me up. So the most common form of this is the pursuit of wealth. Having a nice house and a lot of possessions and a lot of money, and we want to have so much money that we never have to worry about money, because if we have to worry about money, gosh, we might lose all our money and starve to death. We'll be diminished, if not even starve to death. The I might be made smaller, less happy, less powerful. And so we want to build it up through the manipulation of the material world. Now, sometimes, interestingly, this can flip and go the other way. So, especially back in the 70s, there was a slogan, "Don't own more than you can fit in your Volkswagen Bug." It's sort of the, or there might be sort of a little Zen aesthetic. I'm going to live with complete simplicity in a one-room cabin in the wilderness, Thoreau, back to Thoreau, by Walden Pond, and I'm going to just pay attention to the sound of water dripping from the leaves, and I'm going to own very few possessions. That could be, again, the Lord of Form, the manipulation of the spiritual environment in order to achieve that kind of happiness. The Lord of Speech has to do with the manipulation of concepts, ideas, once again, in order to achieve a feeling of solidity, of safety, of well-being. So you might subscribe to a political philosophy. I'm a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, I hate Republicans, or vice versa. And I'm a Buddhist, I don't like theists, I think they're stupid. I like Buddhists, I think they're smart. That's a good one. It might be an idealistic philosophy of just doing good and being a good person, giving money away, and feeling, by doing so that you're becoming a better person and sort of earning brownie points. As though someone were watching, keeping score of all the good things you do and good and bad things you do. I remember my favorite Kurt Vonnegut novel was a novel called The Sirens of Titan. And in that novel, one of the characters travels to this planet in the solar system that's out beyond the solar system. And on that planet there's a traveler who has been traveling from one side of the universe to the other, bringing a message. And the message, by the way, is hello. And his ship is broken down. And he is waiting on this planet. And he can see Earth. And he's been there for tens of thousands of years waiting for his home planet to send him the spare part he needs so that he can fix his spaceship and travel on. And the spare part, by the way, when it arrives, is the exact size and material makeup of a beer can opener. This is classic Vonnegut. And this earthling travels out there to meet this guy, and I forget how and why. And the fellow tells him that in all his travels, the people on Earth are the strangest that he has encountered. And by the way, things like Stonehenge, the Second World War, these are messages sent by his home planet telling him the part's on its way. It's coming. And he tells this fellow that the Earthlings are the strangest of all the people he's encountered in all his travels across the universe, because they behave as though they were a gigantic eye, E-Y-E, out there watching them, as though we were going to earn points by giving money to that panhandler on the street or whatever it is, or lose them by getting angry, as though somebody's keeping score. So the Lord of Speech, you see, is just the attempt to manipulate and organize your life in some way that is going to give you safety, according to a set of ideas. So even being a meditator, I'm a meditator. And if you take that as being, now I'm saved, now I'm on the true path, I'm going to get some kind of salvation out of this. That's the Lord of Speech again. I was a student in graduate school. My field of study was Chinese history. And for one reason or another, I focused in graduate school in my first year there on the Cultural Revolution, which was in full swing. And I now, in retrospect, think that Chinese communism, especially at that time, was perhaps the most monolithic example of the Lord of Speech that this planet has ever seen. The attempt to organize human life according to a set of ideas. It's very harsh when you do it that way, and to that degree, to that extreme. It's really brutal. Finally, the Lord of Mind is the most subtle and tricky, you might say, of all. This is the attempt to manipulate your mind, once again, in order to achieve some kind of happiness, well-being, safety, security, a feeling that you're okay and you don't have to worry about your impending death. When this was originally conceived in Buddhism, they were thinking of there are meditation techniques which are aimed at achieving a kind of permanence. In Buddhism, they are called the dhyanas, or if you're in the Pali tradition, they're called the jhanas. Now, in the Buddhist scheme of things, there are what are called the three worlds. The three worlds are the three ways in which you can be a confused, suffering, unenlightened person. And these three worlds are the world of desire, it's called the Kama Dhatu. Kama, remember Kama Sutra? You've heard about the Kama Sutra, sexual practices. And its Kama means desire, and Dhatu means sphere or area. And so there's the Kama Dhatu, the world of desire, and the world of desire is subdivided into the 6 realms, which are the 6 lokas: the God realm, the jealous God realm, the human realm, animal realm, realm of the hungry ghosts, pretas, and the hell realm. Now above that, but still confused, still unenlightened, is called the realm of pure form, the Rupa Dhatu. And above that is the formless realm, the Arupa Dhatu. Those 2 Dhatus, people can inhabit them. Sentient beings like us. Sentient beings, by the way, is a synonym for confused people, as opposed to Buddhas. But when you inhabit these, they're purely mental places. These are concentration states that you achieve by focusing your mind one-pointedly on an object. And what distinguishes the Rupa Dhatu, there are 4 subdivisions of the Rupa Dhatu, and then 4 of the Arupa Dhatu, the formless realm. And what distinguishes each from the next is that the object gets subtler and subtler. By the time you're focusing at the highest levels of even in the Arupa Dhatu, you're focusing on abstractions. The first meditation of the formless realm is the meditation on pure space. That's just the first one. And then there's, I can't remember one of them, but one of them is the meditation on not this and not that. And the last one is the meditation on not this and not that. Gets pretty ethereal. But these things, again, they're attempts to achieve a kind of happiness, bliss, and these states are very pleasurable, they say. They take an enormous amount of work. And there are people who have done this. And as we were talking coming down in the car, Kevin and I, and there are stories in the Tibetan tradition about yogis who have gotten often misdirected. And they've cultivated and gotten stuck in these trance states, because that's what they are. They're like self-hypnosis. They're trance states. And there are stories of great teachers like Khyentse Rinpoche, the man up there on the top left, going and finding these yogis who have gotten stuck in the dhyanas. And when they get stuck, they might be sitting in a cave, and you can spend enormous amounts of time in this kind of state of concentration once you've managed to develop it. And to the point where your body withers away. And there's stories of yogis who are found, and all that's left is a palpitating heart. Their bodies were, but their mind is still going. And it's the job of the teacher, like that fellow, to wake them up and say, look, this isn't it. You got to get on with it, Come back and tread the path, So that's one example of the word of mind. But there are others as well. You can use psychotherapy and the psychoarts. If they're not used to inculcate a kind of realistic awareness in the present moment, they can be abused, and they often have been. And for instance, back in the day, when Trungpa Rinpoche was around, there was this huge human potential movement, that was connected with Est, and especially Esalen. And the idea was that you go sit in a hot tub and gaze out across the Pacific at the setting sun, while you have a nice drink, and you're having all this pleasure, and you're going to do mental exercises or be taught philosophies that are going to make you happy. And Rinpoche hated that kind of thing. For people who wanted to do that, who wanted to go to the beach, and have beach vacations, he called it lying in the dirt. And so, he regarded that as a real form of spiritual materialism. Using a form of self-aggrandizement, of self-improvement, to play to people's desire to achieve security, happiness, well-being, and it's not reality. It's not waking up. Reality is always coming back, identifying the thought. Khyentse Rinpoche also, I'm just repeating this a lot because I thought it was so terrific. I read a short quote from him on how one should view one's thoughts. And what he said was that you should see your thoughts as you would scenery going past the window of a train. The scenery does not impede the speed of the train or affect the train, nor does the train have an effect on the scenery. And it's just like you're sitting there watching it go by. That's the way you view your thoughts. You see, if you get involved with trying to manipulate your thoughts, like to get rid of them, well, that's another form of self-improvement. There it is again. It's another form of egotism. So the idea is that you just see them, you acknowledge them. It might be sort of interesting to see what your particular neurotic patterns are. We each have our own that come from our backgrounds and our experiences in life. And if you believe in it, even from past lives, patterns, habitual patterns that are unique to us or that are shared with others, both. And it's very interesting to notice the habitual, repetitive quality of that particular story that just went through my mind, instead of just trying to blow it off. That doesn't mean you follow it, you don't. But you see it as like the scenery that you're noticing going by the train. Now he says, ego is able to convert everything to its own use, even spirituality. I'll just read them. No, that isn't it. So we must cut through the elaborate defenses of the three lords layer by layer. And he talks about this. We could discuss this more at another time. That you begin in meditation by recognizing your discursive thought, which is sort of the first level, first layer of ego. It's the last level in the development of ego. Ego starts at a more primitive level and builds up into these stories which are going through our minds willy-nilly, haphazard, pell-mell, all kinds of, one thing and the other. 1 minute we're thinking about dinner, the next moment we're thinking about somebody who's, slighted us, the next minute we're, hoping to find a lover, and all this stuff sort of flies through our minds. This is the AM radio effect of discursive thought, It's just this garbage mind, or monkey mind, we call it, right? So the first thing you do in meditation is you begin to acknowledge it and come back to the present, and in doing that, you're cutting through that first level of ego. Later, you go deeper, you work with the emotions, and even deeper than that. I'm going to read this last thing here. He says, by examination, of his own thoughts, emotions, concepts, and other activities of mind, the Buddha discovered that there is no need to struggle to prove our existence, that we need not be subject to the rule of the three lords of materialism. There is no need to struggle to be free. The absence of struggle is itself freedom. That's beautiful, and that's worth remembering. The absence of struggle is itself freedom. You see, I was puzzling when we went through the myth of freedom, and I was thinking, why is it the myth of freedom? Here it is. This is why it's the myth of freedom. Freedom is not something you strive for. If you do, you become its slave. We need not be subject to the rule of the three lords of materialism. There is no need to struggle to be free. The absence of struggle is itself freedom. This egoless state is the attainment of Buddhahood. This is what I wrote. The true spiritual path is the process of transforming the material of mind from expressions of ego's ambition into expressions of basic sanity and enlightenment through the practice of meditation. And the way we do it is again and again by realizing, oh, I was dreaming, I can see it, see the dream, you let it go, and you switch your loyalty back to awareness in the present moment. It's an enormous act, actually can be, of renunciation, because the thoughts are so compelling, can be so sticky, that they really are true and really should be paid attention to. And the stickier and the more compelling they are, the more the opportunity you have to say, I'm letting it go, I'm going to shift my loyalty to what is real, which is this, right now, as it arises here. You have to do it over and over again, because our habits are so strong. So that's the introduction to cutting through. Any comments, lamentations? Yes. Wait for the mic, and if you'd say your name so everybody can know.
Hi.
It's on.
I'm Isabel.
It's not very loud. You turn it up? Yeah. Thank you.
Test. What you just said about being here is real. That, my thought was that's also not that being here in this moment. That's real, but that's also not real. So.
That's also not real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's another level of understanding. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You can elaborate. Oh, no, Alan. Come on, Alan. please. That very comment revealed your mind. No? Good.
So you're referring to absolute reality when you say even being here is not real. Yeah, right. So, but I mean, before we go there, we have to get the relative truth straight, right?
Right.
So being here from that point of view is as real as we can get, given the fact that we're, suffering human beings.
Mm-hmm.
By being here, we can somehow lessen that intensity of suffering.
Mm. I think too, it gets. Tell me your name again. Isabel. Isabel's remark takes us very, very far. I think at this point what we're doing is we're talking about sort of a practical application of how to work with our minds in the present moment. But you see, what happens is on the path is the more we come into the present moment, the more our understanding of what the present moment is changes. And the Buddhist descriptions of what reality is, which is what Isabel's referring to, are sort of there to lead us on deeper, into a deeper understanding of what this world actually is, deeper than we have when we first start practicing, and maybe deeper than we'll have for quite a while. And so you get all these descriptions that Alan alluded to of the absolute truth, or of shunyata, emptiness, and beyond that of the three bodies of the Buddha, and more. That is the way in which, you see, if you change your mind, we have this slogan that everybody loves, if you change your mind, you change the world. Well, as we change our minds slowly, the world is going to change. And our understanding of what's out there will change, and the way in which we describe it will change, or understand it and describe it. So there are descriptions of this world that refer to unreality. Ultimately, the word reality is still used, but it changes in what it means. Yeah.
Truth.
Huh?
Truth is also used.
Truth.
Truth, ultimate truth, relative truth.
Relative and absolute truth, right. Yeah. Huh?
The more I listen to what you're saying, the more problematic the word real becomes, actually.
Yeah. What's your name?
Richard.
Richard, of course.
Yeah, the more I listen to this conversation and think about the word real, it becomes really elusive as a useful descriptor of what we're talking about. I mean, being in the present moment is enough in itself. It doesn't need the addition of this is real.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. Real is very static. It's sort of.
It solidifies it, actually.
Yes. Yeah. Well, in fact, what is actually, if we can call it real, is fluid, ever-changing, and instant by instant, and ungraspable. They call it, all the illusion, the metaphors they use for it, like a dream, like a magician's illusion, like a mirage, or like images in a mirror, that we're all sitting in the middle of, and that this is the nature of what there is to be experienced. Thank you. That's great. Yeah. We'll be going through all of this. We'll get through this in this book. It's going to take us through quite a lot. All the way into Tantra. Much more deeply than Myth of Freedom did, actually. Alan, can you pass the mic back?
I notice there's a lot of
I notice there's a lot of concern about, especially between various groups, I mean, whether it's sexual, racial, gender, national, about who's describing whom, and the sense of people wanting to, the phrase I've heard a lot is control the narrative, that you don't have a right to describe who I am. That's my sole right, and the sense of one's narrative being so crucially important. And I'm wondering whether there has to be some sense of, even though the self is non-existent, basically, whether there has to be some feeling of cohesion, of that before one goes further, and cohesion before one goes further to deconstruct that cohesiveness. So people talk about the narrative, my narrative, and it's important for me to be able to make my statement about who I am. And perhaps, I'm just wondering what you think about it, perhaps that's a kind of precondition before one starts the deconstruction process.
What do you think?
Well,
it's a big question.
Yeah.
Huge question.
Could I just point out that I think sometimes when they're saying, hey, you're writing a narrative about me, that's another story that somebody's writing. So maybe we need to drop the stories a little bit more and just try to listen to each other and not, put... maybe we need to not talk about my story as much as, just saying drop the story and listen to what the other person is saying and try to listen to each other.
I feel that's...
Yeah, I think that's another way of describing going beyond narrative. Going beyond the fixed reality of a narrative and the sense that it's so important. To me, it indicates a certain degree of relaxation, to be able to relax with your sense of yourself and not be so caught up in how you describe yourself.
Yeah, I think to the extent that we shift our loyalty to this present moment, become present, we become completely responsive to others and act not out of egotism, but out of awareness and responsiveness to what other people are saying, and we become much more intelligent. Because oftentimes people say one thing, but they mean something altogether different. And we miss it because we're so caught up in ourselves, but to the extent that, or in our own inner story, but to the extent that we let the story go, come present, or hear, we can hear what the other person is actually saying. We can actually be there and be awake and intuitive and feeling what's going on behind that face that the other person has, and respond to that in a way that's much more accurate, open, and compassionate. And by compassionate, I'm not talking about feeling sorry for in any way. I just mean being accurate, responsive, and fully there and participatory for that other person. Yes?
I'm going to speak also about a certain kind of relativeness, because other people, if you're responsive to other people, part of what you're responding to is their view of you. And I've had two examples, which I'm just going to bring up in my own, is recently, because of life circumstances, I've been more around my one sibling. And it's very interesting, and not necessarily a delight, to have her experience of me, which is quite I hear all sorts of histories which I haven't been around in a long time, and it's all these reminiscences come up, and it hasn't too much to do with my own experience of myself at this point. And at one point I had to say to her, she who says, I know what you're thinking, much of the time she says it verbally or not, said, actually, I'm not sure you know how I'm perceiving things because you haven't been educated into the concepts and the language is that I have been learning for many decades now. And the very words or concepts she doesn't even know. So I am I also grew up very early, from 7 years old, growing up 2 different places. And I was seen, even as a child, quite differently on the East Coast, where there's a lot of family, on the West Coast, where there was no family. So I'm just saying that it's very relative to who you're interacting with, and then your need to either be something there or not, have some continuity of sense of self or not when experiencing these others.
I think that, the point of all this is that the sense of I that we carry around, often aggrieved, feeling put upon and wronged, or diminished in some way, is the source of suffering. It's that sense of that constant referral back to I who have not gotten what I deserve, I who wish things were otherwise, all those stories we tell. And there's a discipline that you can do and might get involved in. I'm part of the Westchester Buddhist Center up in Irvington, and the year before this past one, we every year we have a retreat, just a 1 week meditation retreat, and the theme for that retreat a year and a half ago was the Lojong slogans. Atisha was a great teacher who went to Tibet in the 11th century, and he gave a lot of teachings, and one of his students codified them into slogans. And you can have a deck of these slogans. There are, I think, how many are there? Is it
54, I think.
54 or 57?
54.
57, isn't it?
57.
Yeah. And you can get a deck of them, and I have a deck of them, and every day as I start to practice, I just sort of flip through the deck and pick one out at random. 2 of my favorites were coming to mind as I was listening to this. One of them is drive all blames into one. And then I read the commentary to that one by Trungpa Rinpoche. And here's what he said, like it or not. He said, in every instance where there is an opportunity, you take the blame. You take the blame. Doesn't matter who you think is wrong, you take the blame. Do you know what an assault that is on ego? Oh my God, think about it, it's horrible. And then he says, I've done it tens of thousands of times myself. Wow, it's hard for me to do it once. All right. And what was the other one I was thinking that sort of bore on this too? The one that showed up this morning. Be grateful to everyone. Everyone. Think about that person you really hate. You gotta be grateful to them. And that person is still sticking it to you one way or another. You gotta be grateful to everyone. What an assault on ego, on the sense of I. And it's because the whole idea of I is the source of our suffering. It's like this sack of woe we carry around about me. Yeah.
I'd like to make a comment about the drive all blames into oneself. There is a catch with that. I'm a psychologist. If you work with people who are very pathological and are lacerating themselves all the time seriously, you have to be careful with that one.
Oh yeah.
It is always couched, at least with the beginning of be friendly to oneself. Because you can really get into a lot of trouble with a lot of the slogans and other things if you don't start with be friendly and the development of friendly toward oneself.
You know, I don't know much about it, but I was told by a psychologist friend of mine, I know somebody, a young teenage woman who cuts herself, and what he said was that it's actually a mechanism to relieve pain.
Right.
You know, so it's not so much self-attack as it is a form of looking for relief from suffering.
But suffering can also, some people, like I'm around someone right now, a constant deflect for this woman is constantly lacerating herself verbally, other people as well, I want to say, but likewise herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a household at some point. I'm between houses right now, so I'm visiting. This is rather an extreme experience. And everything is seen in good and bad.
Everything what?
Everything in one house where I'm staying as a guest, everything is couched in goods and bads. So the dog eats good or bad. Good dog doesn't eat bad dog. It's unbelievable. Look up the stairs. Good going upstairs, bad going upstairs. And for people who are bad, there comes a point you have to start to work with the friendliness to oneself. Alan?
Yes, indeed.
Bad microphone. Well, yeah, indeed, what you're saying. So for that reason, the Lojong slogans are introduced after one has learned how to be kind to oneself, one has learned how to be friends with oneself. That's the foundation, that's the baseline. If you don't have that, things can go terribly wrong. That's definitely the case.
It's all fluid, so kindliness to oneself isn't achieved as an ultimate. Every time you're dealing with all of the slogans and everything else, it's still you have to integrate and reintegrate.
Yes, and that's exactly right. You never leave that behind.
That's right.
Right.
Isabel.
I also wanted to add that sometimes people who, seem to diminish themselves constantly, that's also another form of egotism, because it's kind of like, I'm the piece of shit that the world revolves around, right? In the end, it's like, I'm so bad, I'm so special because I'm so bad, like there's so many, I know it doesn't sound kind, yeah, it's another kind of ego.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of ego.
Yeah.
Richard.
There's also a sense, isn't there, that, and I've heard this said many times, I'm not making it up myself, that you need to have some form of ego stability, if you like, before you start pulling it apart. That it's not constructive with somebody who's extremely, I hesitate to say neurotic, but unstable or mentally unwell, to start engaging in practices which disassemble an ego which hasn't yet
Well said.
got a sufficiently strong foundation to be pulled apart. And I think that has some relation to what you're saying.
Right. I mean, all of these teachings you have to work with them.
Somebody else?
Great. Yeah, that's true. Well, perhaps we should end at this point. There was a terrific discussion. That was really great. Yeah, thank you. So, could we do the dedication of merit? This is a way of giving up ego. Dedication of merit. So instead of me collecting merit to build myself up, I'm going to give it away. And that's what this little chant is about. And in Buddhism, we always do this at the end of any practice session. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great East, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy brilliant glory.